ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णा प्रेम प्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णा चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थसुभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदायादिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। स्वस्ति अस्तु विश्वस्य खलः प्रसीदतां ध्यायन्तु भूतानि शिवं मिथो धिया। मनश्च भद्रं भजतादधोक्षजे आवेश्यतां नो मतिरप्यहेतुकी। Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, verse number 52. Sri Sukadeva Goswami is replying to the question raised by King Parikshit. Why is it that Vrajvasis have more love for Krishna than their own sons? Because it is seen that one has affection, love, attachment for one's own children than others' children. So Krishna was not born to them. So why is it that they loved him more than their own children. So Sri Sukadeva Goswami replies this, first giving an example, and then he will extrapolate on that example. And this is very important example because it is everybody's experience. There may be certain examples which are not known to some people, but this is such an example which no one can deny. Everybody has experience of it, and therefore everybody can actually understand what is love of Krishna or why Krishna is called Krishna. But one has to deliberate on the example. So he says that sarvabhutanam sarveshamapi bhutanam nripa savatma eva vallabha itrayapatya putradya tadvallabhataya evahi. He says that everybody loves their own body. So that is the prime object of love for everybody, this body. And this is the ahantaspad, this is our identity. And then all other object of love are only in relationship to that body. And if we can understand the fact that how we love the body, because when we say, okay, I understand this, that I like my body, I care for it. So how do I understand what is prema from this, or why Krishna is superior object of love than one's own children or body? So love means when you do something pleasing for that object. So we always want to please our body, although we are not the body. We spend a lot of time for the sake of the body. And if body is troubling us, we don't become upset with body. Right? Kurvan shatvalikani ya priya evahi ashesha dosa drushtopi kaya kasyana vallabha. So a dear person, one who is dear even if that person is doing hundreds of things which are not favorable to you, still that person remains dear to you. Generally, if someone does something unfavorable to you, then you become upset with that person. But if you love that person, you are not upset. If you are in the house and you have your son or daughter or somebody, wife, husband, you ask them to bring a cup of water, they bring, they drop the cup breaks, you don't freak out. But if the same thing is done by a servant or some employee, then you get angry. So what is the difference? Because for one person you have love and for other you don't have. So kurvan shatvalikani ya priya evahi. So one who is dear no matter what that person does. And that is the test of dearship. If you want to test dearship, whether dearship is there or not there, this is the test. And body is the best example of that. He says, ashesha dosha dushtopi kaya kasyana vallabha. He says that this body is full of defects. It's full of holes, right? All over the body there are holes. There is no part which does not have a hole, means defect. But who does not love the body? How much time we spend on this body every day, how much we think of it. And even if this body is causing trouble, we don't say hell with this body. No, we continue. So if you make a balance sheet of the troubles which body gives and the happiness you derive from it, it will be not balanced sheet, it will be imbalanced sheet. because there will be a list of things which body is troubling you, especially in the old age, childhood. In between, maybe little favorable things you can get, but otherwise it's always troubling. And how much time we spend to maintain it every day, besides sleeping and eating and other things. Still, we never feel that this body is nonsense. I'm fed up with it. So this is the sign of love. So that's how love is. This is, people say, I love you, I love you, I love you, all the time we hear. Just a word without much sense behind it. So do you love somebody even 10% of what you love your own body? Ashesha dosa dushto api kaya kasya valva. Ashesh means all types of problems the body gives, from the very birth till death, day and night. Gets hungry after a few hours, you have to eat. Do you take care of anybody else like that? Only the mother takes care of the baby like that. But other than that, whom you call as your lover, you do spend that every day, every few hours you feed that person. You'll drop after 1 week. Sometimes people have to take care of their old parents, mother, father or somebody. They get fed up after some time. They may not say it, but inside they feel, when is this old person going to die? So, but about our own body, we don't think like that. So this is the standard of love. And love for Krishna is much superior than this. So it is unimaginable. And that is what the Vrajvasis have. And topmost of that is what you call as Gopi Bhav or Manjari Bhav. Try to think about it. So unless you give up your attachment to your own body, where is the question of any one of that bhav? We are so much steeped in taking care of and attached to our own body, and then we think we are going to get that. Varuni diggatam vastu katham endriyam avapnuyat. So something which is found in the West, you are looking for that in the East, or vice versa. How is that possible? So if our attachment, our raga is for the kaya, for this body, then how is that we will have love for Krishna? How is it possible? It's not free. So one has to sacrifice that completely. So actually body is called kaya. This comes from dhatu kai. Kai shabde. Means it's always making you cry. That's what is called kaya. So this is the kaya full of maya. Just source of trouble. Yet we don't want to give it up. We never think this is a horrible thing. So when you love somebody, that's how it is. So from this you can understand the mood of Vrajvasis, how much they love Krishna. So this is what he is going to come to. That is the second step. First step is try to understand the love we have for the body. And now this Vita wrote me yesterday that how the cells in our body are the perfect example of love, because they cooperate and they actually die for the body, they live for the body. The cell in our own body, if they become selfish, then you will not survive. They take only what they need, not more. And They cooperate, all the cells cooperate, that's why the body is functioning. So this is how Rajvasis are, that's why there is no management required in Raj. Because if everybody is cooperating, where is the need to manage? Management is required when people do not cooperate. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach. This is what he wants to give. This is the practical thing. This bhakti is not simply I go to Golok Vrindavan or I go there, I become Manjari. No, it is to be practiced here. And if you cannot practice it here, forget about it. After death, you are not going to get something different than what you have now. If you cannot have that experience now while living, you are not going to. Death is not some mystical thing which is going to transport you from here to somewhere else if you don't have it here. That's why Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyaste ante kalibram. So bhakti is not some esoteric thing, it is practical thing to be experienced here and now. And that's the important sloka which Brahma has spoken when he was talking about Bhutalay. Remember that? So that there is no difference between this and that Vrindavan. That is the meaning. The meaning is that this Vrindavan and spiritual Vrindavan are not different, because in this Vrindavan you have to live like that. Then this Vrindavan is spiritual Vrindavan, and if you cannot live here, then spiritual Vrindavan is also like this. Because wherever you go, you will have the same problem. So not, if people ask this question, if I die in Vrindavan, then this will happen. What will happen by dying? Okay, you can die anywhere. You have to live, not die. So that is what Bhāgavatam is teaching. So it's not an easy thing. But this example is very pertinent, very important, and very easy to understand. Not some complex equation of mathematics. So therefore he says, Dehatma vadinam punsham api rajanya sattama yatha deha priyatama tatha nihanu yachatam. So king says that, O Rajanya Sattama, that O best of the kings, even people who are Dehatmavadi, means who think this body has to be their self. So for them this body is the most dear object, Priyatama. Not Priya, not Priyatara, but Priyatama. The most lovable object. And anything else is secondary, which is related to the body, whether it is children or relatives or house or wealth, that is only secondary. So this is the simple truth. And if you know this, then you will understand how much so-called love is here in the material world. This sloka actually wakes you up. If one wants to wake up, then this is the clarion call for waking up. Straightforward and nothing complex. So he says Dehatmavadinam, because everybody is a Dehatmavadi in this material world. Nobody is different. We may have belief this and that, but thing is that we identify with the body. Our identity is that with this Deha. And what is Deha? Deha Upchaye comes from root Deha, which means to collect. So it's a collection of things. It's basically collection of food articles. You eat food every day, that gets collected. That's how you grow. So it's nothing but food. right? Body is nothing more than the food you have eaten. When you are in the womb of the mother, there also you are eating, getting the food from mother. So it's just a ball of food transformed into different ways. And that is a very magical system in the body, that you put food inside, it get digested, and part of it becomes nose, part of it becomes hair, part of it becomes teeth, some other part becomes something else, nails, all that. So it's all food. So that's why it is called deha. Means it's a conglomeration of different types of parts put together like a machine. And the Atma considers this to be the self, and that is called Dehatmavada. So Deha eva Atma. Body is myself. That's why I said this is me. Right? We thump on our chest. Don't you know me? Who I am? This. Right? And we make so much effort to attract others to this body. Means attract another lump of food to this lump of food. Right? And then if some another lump of food gets attracted to this lump of food, then this lump of food feels, wow, people love me. You don't know yourself, how the hell they know you? So this is the meaning of Agyan, Avidya, Maya. This is what it is called, Maya. And this is how the world runs. The world runs on this falsity. This is the falsity of the world, of all relations, everything. So that is Dehatmavad. So Dehatmavadinam Pumsham api Rajanya Sattama. He says, you are a king, so you know very well, you ruled. So kingdom is also like the king is considered as the father, and subjects of the king are like children. So you know that you did not love them as you love your own body. Now when you got the curse, you are sitting here on the bank for your own sake, dropping everybody, dropping the kingdom, you don't care for them, you are worried about yourself. So you are Rajanya Sattama, you are the Sattama means Sattara Sattama. Means a good king, a better king, the best king. Saintly. So you know this. So yatha deha priyatama tatha nahi anuyejatam. So as the body is dear to me, there is nothing else which is more dear than this. Sacha atma mudhair deha eva nyayate iti tanmatena. So in the previous verse he was talking about Atma, that everybody loves their own self. Now he is making it very clear what is this self. So that you don't confuse it to Atma as described in Bhagavad Gita, because you have read Bhagavad Gita. So he says this Atma is nothing but the body. Body is the Atma. So Deha eva Atma iti vaditum shilam yesham tam. So those people who call this body as their self, that's what they say, this is me, this is I am this, I am whatever. I am big, I am small, I am thin, I am fat, I am intelligent, I am smart, I am Indian, I am this. It's all related to the body only, nothing else. So that is Dehatmavad. So Yesham So this is their nature, this is their behavior, that's how they act. Tam deham anubhavanti ye putradayas te tatha na priyatama. So those who have this dehatmavada, this feeling or this idea that I am this body or this body is me, I am not distinct from the body. So then the love for anything else is not as deep, as intense as to their own body. And this is natural. That's why in the previous verse he said Riyatha as Nirupadhi. This attachment to our body is natural. It's not implanted by something, it is not by culture, it is not by training, not by education, not by seeing others, that others like their body, I should also start liking my body. Like sometimes people do that, somebody has a hairstyle like this, I also want a hairstyle like that. That is not nirupadhik, that is sopadhik. It is being influenced by something external. This is not, nothing is coming from outside. This is just the way we are, and we don't know that there is something different than this. Nobody here in the material world knows that we are not the body. Unless you hear from Shastra, and that is only theoretical knowledge. The experience is something different. So, and those who have no contact with Shastra, they don't know and they cannot understand it. That we are not the body. You can go on telling them, they won't understand. Even if they say or yes, or you give them example or try to make them understand. No. So deep. This is the deepest thing. This is the deepest avidya we have. There is nothing deeper than this. I am this body. So how can we just go away like that with little talk or hearing lecture or reading something? And it has been there from one birth to another birth. In every birth, whatever body we have had, if we become a tree and we think I am a tree, happy being a tree. If I am a worm, I am a worm. So that story of Narada Rishi is there. Narada Rishi came on earth. He saw people suffering here, felt compassion. So he went to Vishnu in Vaikuntha. Vishnu received him, says, Narada, what is the news? He says, I am coming from earth. People are very much suffering. Please do something. He says, what do you want? He says, why don't you liberate them? He says, okay, go. Anybody who wants to come to Vaikuntha, you bring him. I give you the authority. So Narada was so happy. So he came running from the earth. He went to one village, he was running. He says, hey, you folks, come, listen to me. So everybody came. He says, anybody who wants to go to Vaikuntha, come with me, I will take him. He says, what? So nobody joined him. He thought that everybody will immediately come with him. Not one person. So he was very surprised. So then he started preaching. When he started preaching, everybody left one by one. He says, this guy is crazy. He wants to take us to Vaikuntha. I have go to my field and water my tomatoes. He is thinking about Vaikuntha. I am thinking about the tomatoes here. So finally, one man was listening more patiently. So he thought, at least I have one. So he preached to him. And he says, okay, you understand now how people are suffering here, and Vaikuntha is so nice, so let's go. So the man said, yeah, what you are saying is making sense. But the thing is that if I just get one son, then I will be satisfied, then I can come with you. So Narada said, what is this, But what to do? He thought, I don't want to go empty hand. Vishnu will look at me. Says, you did not bring even one person. So he says, okay. So he came after 1 year, he got a son. And he says, okay, let's go now, you got a son now. He says, come on, cannot leave him like this, let him grow. So like that, he passed time. Now the son has to grow, then he has to go to school, then he says, well, I'll let him get married and settled, then I'll be free. Then he got married. Let me see the face of my grandson. So every time Narada will come, he will have some excuse, then Narada will go away. So one next time when he came, the man was dead in the meantime. So he came to their house, the son was there. He says, where is your father? He died 3 months ago. He said, oh my God. So then he thought, what to do now? So he searched for him. So with his yogic power, he saw that he has become a worm right in the drain outside the house. So he looked for him. He trapped him. And he took him out with a stick. And he talked to him. Because Narada Rishi can speak in the language of the worms also. In the Yoga Sutra, 3rd chapter, Vibhuti Pada, there is one Siddhi. It says that yogis can understand the language of even birds and animals. So he reminded him, say, you remember we had a pact? And he says, yeah. So he says, what do you think now? At least now you can come. And he says, actually, what will I do in Vaikuntha? I feel quite happy here. I'm in this drain and I get my little food, whatever comes here, and I'm satisfied. What will I do there? So then Narada forcibly took him to Vaikuntha, at least one person. So the story actually tells this Dehatmavad is not just for human beings, but the attachment for the body is there in every species. That's why even if a worm is going, you try to touch it, it also tries to protect itself. It's not thinking that I have this worm body, which is nonsense, let me die, maybe I'll become a human being. No. Even a mosquito protects itself. Sits on you, bite, you try to go near, it flies away immediately. So that is the Dehatmavad, universal characteristic. So that's what he is describing, that tam deham anubhavanti ye putradayas te tatha na priyatama. So then nothing is dear like that. So then he says, dehopi mamata bhakchet tarhyasau natmavat priyaha yajjiryati api dehasmin jivitasha baliyasi. So he says that deho api mamata bhakchet. He says, by chance, if you can understand that body is my, not I. Dehatmavad means when you think that I am the body. And mamta bhak here is that this is my body. Means when you say my, means I am separate and this belongs to me. So he says that if somehow you get a little sense of discrimination, some viveka, some understanding that I am not the body and body is mine, not me, so then it is not dear like yourself. Then it becomes number 2. Because number 1 is only my Atma, myself. That's what was said earlier, that Sarvesham api bhutanam nripsva atma eva vallabha. So the basic principle, the basic siddhanta is that Atma is most dear. But when we think of body as our Atma, then body is most dear. But if I think or if I understand, I have little understanding, obviously not very clear understanding, but some sense has gone into my head and I know that I am not the body. Body is mine. So that is called Mamta Bhag or Mamtaspad. Means the object of my or that which belongs to I. So then it is not dear like Atma, because Atma is supreme object of love. So then why is that we don't want to die then? Even if I understand I am not the body, still I fear death. Right? Avidyasmita raga dvesha vinivesha panchaklesha. So why is still the klesha is there? So he says, yad jivati api dehe asmin, yad jiryati api dehe asmin, jivitasha baliyasi. So even if the body becomes old and decrepit and full of all types of problems, still the hope for life is very strong. Still I want to live. So why is that? So this is also because of the love for the self. Because there is love for self and we think this belongs to self. So if it belongs to self, then I don't want to give it up. Because the sense of I becomes fortified by sense of my. That's why people like to hoard things. Because when they have more wealth, more possessions, then they feel that I exist. I have sense of belongingness around me, so this is all me. So that's why the body is the first object of myness, or first possession that I have, and I don't want to give that up. Or you can say this Jivit Asha, you can also think of it as abaliyasi. You can break the sandhi like that. So then the meaning will be yajjiryati api dehasmin Jivit Asha baliyasi. That if you understand I am not the body and then body is not doing good, then I don't have very strong desire to live. It is there, but abaliyasi, not very strong. That meaning can also come from here. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives another explanation to it. So he says, Dehatmavadinam tesham api kadachid ishad viveke sati atma eva priyasyat na tatha deha ityaha deha. So even if those people who are Dehatmavadi, who consider their body as the self, if somehow they can get little understanding of their true self and have this viveka or sense of discrimination between self and the body, so then the self will take the precedence. Even if you have not realized the fact, but you have some understanding, then your self will take precedence over the body. And body will become secondary and Atma will be number one object of love. In other words, whatever is the referent of the word I, whatever you consider the meaning of the word I, that is the topmost object of love. And whatever you think as my takes the second place. So that is being described here. Deho api ahantaspadi bhuto api deha ishad vivekena yadi mamata bhag syat tadasau deha atmat priyo na bhavet. So although we are thinking body to be I, but if we can have some knowledge of distinction that I am different from the body, then body will become the object of my and not I. And then it will be secondary object of love. It will not be dear like the Atma. Kintu atmanrodhenaiva priyah syat. So then obviously it is dear, then the body is dear only in relationship to the Atma. Because the original object of love is myself. And then whatever I consider belonging to myself, my Atma, then I also love that. That is the simple principle. Tatra lokanubhavam eva pramanayati. So he is giving an example of common experience of people. Yaditi. Sarvatra deha tyage atmano ati kashtam drishtva. So everybody sees, those who have seen other people dying, they see that dying is not a very happy experience. If you see somebody dying, whether dying natural death or dying in some accident, then it is not pleasurable experience. There is a pain involved in it, especially if you die with some accident, then person who is dying feels a lot of pain. So then he says, seeing that, then person thinks that if I die, I am also going to feel pain like that, and I don't want to feel, and therefore wants to live. That's how he explained Jivitasha Baliyasi. That the wish to live is strong even when body is old. Why? Because dying is painful, and I don't want to have an experience of the pain. So he says, Ati kashtam mam atmano ma bhavatu iti buddhyeva atmani ati snehadeva dehe jivitasha adhika bhavati. And therefore then fear of death comes, and you somehow want to prolong your life and live because of that fear. So now he concludes this, what he has spoken in the previous 4 verses. So it says, Tasmat priyatamah swatma sarvesham api dehinam tadarthameva saklam jagat etat characharam. So it says, therefore, of all embodied beings, their own self is most dear. So this is what he said in the first sloka. Now he concludes with that. So priyatamaha swa atma sarvesham api dehinam. Of all, it's not that there are certain exceptions to this rule. Everybody is like that. So then from this you can understand the human psychology easily. That once you know that people like their own self and they think body is the self, then they will do everything to keep body happy and avoid that which is problematic to the body. All the raga and dvesha that comes from that, then all the actions will proceed from that. So that's how we navigate our life in the material world. Whatever decisions we make, knowingly and unknowingly, they are rooted in this. So then we'll say, then why is that I perform activity and then it brings me suffering? Because when you perform the activity, you thought it is going to give you happiness. But it did not turn out like that, because we are not always situated in perfect knowledge of the outcome. We think that this is how it will play out, this is how it will end. But there are some other factors which come and influence it, and you get an unwanted result. So then you end up in trouble. So that's what is happening most of the time, that we make decisions thinking this will make me happy, this will bring welfare to me. Outside outcome is just the opposite. So sukhaya karmani karoti loke na tat sukhamanyaduparamanna. So we do work for getting sukha, but happiness does not come, and we don't become free from suffering also. So not that we don't get happiness, we actually get what we were not wanting at all, that is suffering. So this is because of our own ignorance. Then we blame God, because then that is the next step. How to satisfy my mind now? So now I start blaming others. I blame this, I blame that. If that does not work, then at least let me blame God now. So He is the culprit. He is causing all the trouble. So this is how it functions. So tadartham eva sakalam jagat etat charachara. And it is only for the sake of the self that this whole world, the objects in the world moving or immoving, they are dear to us. If anything is dear, everything is lovable in this world, it is only for this sake. As soon as it is not to my satisfaction, then I reject it. So sometimes I cannot reject, then I tolerate. That's what we do. So either we are tolerating or we reject. And if we cannot tolerate, then we want to get rid of our life. Tasmaditi charam putra kalatradi acharam griha ghatpatadi. So charam or mobile objects are son, wife, relatives, etc. And immobile is house, ghata, pata, pot, cloth, dress, all these things. Why you like your dress? Because it gives pleasure to your body. It is for the sake of your body. Why do you like your cot, your pot? So all this cot, pot, etc. They are for the sake of the body only. Tena loka drishtya putradibhya sakashad atmaneva atyantik priti vishyatvam iti pratipadita. So in these first 5 slokas, he has established that the ultimate object of love for people in general is one's own self more than anything else. This is the conclusion. So after this has been established, and once you understand this, now he moves to Krishna. Now he comes to the original question which was raised by King Parikshit. That why is it that the love for Krishna was more than one's own children? So first he says that love for self is more than even one's own children. So the question was only between your children and Krishna. And now he brought another factor in between, that there is your children, then you, then Krishna. So first he said that actually love for your own self is superior to love for your own children. And now, because Krishna is the self of the self, therefore love for Krishna is more than yourself. This is the, what you call, gradation. I'm saying.
Right, Maharaj.
Yes.
Question is, so my question is that some people give up their body for a cause, like a soldier on the battlefield, or maybe some terrorists also. So what is the psyche there?
You tell me, I already answered it yesterday. Anybody
Oh,
remembers?
sorry, I was trapping. So sorry if I have asked that question. I couldn't
So
give
anybody,
that class.
so Vilas, you can answer. Let me see who remembers. I myself answered it yesterday.
So what I remember is that, yeah, this is, I mean, we also identify with our names, and yeah, in this way we want to survive
that-
also even our body,
So
right?
that is, yes, that's what. So that sacrifice which you can do for your country or for your religion, that is also for the sake of your own self only. So those terrorists who are blowing themselves up like a human bomb, so they have been told that if you do this, then you will go to Allah, heaven, and there are 70 virgins waiting for you there. 70. So that's their attraction. And they believe in it.
72.
They believe in it. Because I heard one lecture, and then this guy was telling, he says 70. So one guy asked a question. He says, did you say 17? So the speaker said, no, you fool, 70, not 17. The only question is, what about the women, What do they get? So they only get one. So, and those who sacrifice for country, then they also, because I have seen here in Braj area, many times you go to village, some person who was a soldier, he sacrificed his life, they put his statue. They made like his, statue, and it's like at the entrance of the village, and they have festival. So now what happens is that many young people who see this, and then of course the family to which he belonged, they are very glorified and they feel very proud. My son, this. I even heard once one dead body came, some just from nearby village. He was killed in Kashmir by terrorists. So the body came, and then the father was saying that I will send my second son also to the army. So you see this, so because all the press reporters are talking to him, he is coming to the news, and then all the young people see this and he says, I also want to be like that, my name. So then it is for that the sake of the name. So ultimately your self is there. You put yourself into something. My country, my religion, my family, my village, my whatever, my child, my son. So you are putting yourself, and then you can sacrifice for that.
So another question would be like some people commit suicide. So what is the psyche there?
Psyche, that means you are not listening to my classes. That is the psyche. This I answered even today. So you better listen again from the recording.
Okay.
Any other question? Yes.
Could you give an example of the self being a higher object of love than the body? Is it something like, because you said this has to be experienced, and would a practical experience be something like when we feel intense pain, then a common advice is to disassociate with the body, and we can make a practical experience of the pain becoming less. Is this something, or
No,
do you have
just like
something else?
if you know that
Except,
the
of course,
purpose of life, they will say, is not just enjoying your senses but attaining moksha. And then they say that to attain moksha, you must fast for 27 days. Suppose, because somebody was doing that here, that's what I'm saying. So now you'll fast for 27 days, your body feels a lot of trouble, you are neglecting the needs of the body. Why? For your own self. Because you want yourself to be liberated. So therefore you can do that.
okay. So tapasya meaning voluntarily taking discomfort.
Yeah, because he's saying this is only for those who have this knowledge that I am not the body. The other example of sacrificing for country, nation, this is for a Dehatmavadi, my explanation.
Yeah.
And then he said that Mamta Bhak, he used the word Deho api Mamta Bhak, which indicates that I consider myself as separate from my body. That's why it is Mamta Bhak. It is an object of my and not I. So then that can be done. Means now for the sake of I can give trouble to my, because I is better than my.
And would this also be an experience of the self not being the body?
What do you mean?
When I value something higher than my body, like taking this pain or doing
It's
something.
not an experience, but you
know.
have knowledge, theoretical knowledge.
I'm asking because I understood that here in Shastra we get the theoretical knowledge, but the ultimate purpose is to have the experience. So I'm wondering, how could this experience look like?
Yeah, experience look like means when you realize that, then obviously you will not give importance to body. Then you will do your activities, and if you need to take care of the body is not your enemy. It's also our vehicle, our instrument. But you will not be overly attached to it, that you are spending your life only for the sake of body. Now whatever is I supposed to do, if you are a path of devotee, then you do devotional service. And if you are on the path of Gyan Marg, then you are Vairagi, then you torture the body.
Okay, got it. So one practical experience for devotees of I'm not the body could be that I just do the necessary maintenance for the body to be able to use it for seva, and not for...
This came in the Bhāgavatam itself. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. The purpose of life is tattva jigyasa, naschartva he karami, not just engaging in getting artha. Any other question? So is it clear now? So next he is going to go to this Krishna Menam. It's a long commentary, we'll do that next class.